Today's guest is Stephen Pisani, who is the founder owner of the well-established accountancy firm Pisani Group. Celebrating over 20 years in business, Stephen is currently servicing over 4,500 clients Australia-wide. His core business value is to create positive impacts of change for his clients and team. He fosters long-term relationships with all clients and ensures their financial goals are achieved with his personal and comprehensive accounting and financial knowledge. His commitment to giving back is evident through his support of over 45 not-for-profit organisations. Stephen and his team are also making a difference to those who are less fortunate, being involved with various charity organisations. He supports his clients to achieve their lifetime financial dreams and continues to believe his team is his greatest asset. Stephen, welcome. Thank you for joining me on the show today.
It's an absolute pleasure. Happy to be here.
Me too, me too. So, after hearing you share your journey as a leader at a recent networking event, which was phenomenal, I had an immediate desire to interview you. And there were so many reasons, but the main reason is that you're a heart-led CEO. So, I'd like to start at the beginning. And by that, I mean, what was going on for you that had you change your leadership approach and start this journey that is leading from the heart?
Yeah, I think if you go right back, I think from my point of view, I think my business philosophy has always been about looking after people, etc. I think changing that and really clarifying where that point come in is during COVID. So obviously supporting 400 or 500 business clients through what I've seen is the most challenging period of any time for small business. It really showed where that heart lead come from. So from my point of view, it was really establishing that I was there for those clients. I was working 20 or 22 hours a day because I really cared for those clients. And it was more about making sure that, they got through it, etc., at my detriment. But it was really making sure that they got through it and I could be there to support them. So that it was a bit of a conundrum because, I helped them out and every one of our businesses got through and probably thrived through that period, but it really burnt me out in supporting those. So that was probably part of the reason, but it also then switched that focus to say, this is what my business is really about. It's about the why. It's about caring for the clients, about caring for the team. And then that really solidified in the way that we communicated that message through that. So that was a recent thing, but it really solidified why the culture of the business has been the whole time.
Yes. And so on a personal level, because I love that you saw that opportunity, even though you sacrificed some of your own well-being for the greater good, that it gave you an opportunity to pivot your leadership. But the personal side of things changed for you as well, didn't it?
Yeah, I'd focus on me because obviously that was, 3 months of working 22 hours a day, your body can't sustain that and hit a wall. But then that's just saying like you need to care for yourself as well and the team. Because my team through that, they were amazing support, etc. And it refocused that energy to say, this is my why. This is why I'm really in business. It's not about accounting, it's not that. It's about changing people's lives. And it's really about being there for them in the harder times. It's all good to be in the great times, but it's when, as a heart-led leader, it's those times where clients really need you that where you can shine. And same for my team. I need to have that same care for them, but also my own personal well-being. I really need to focus on me because to be an effective leader and through those times, I need to be healthy. I need to be, have clarity of mind and look after myself as well, because that's the only way that I can give that back and help and be the most authentic way for myself, for them as well.
Yes. And we see that a lot. Like, do you agree that a lot of CEOs for sort of forego the personal life care for business success?
Yeah, it is. And that's driven, obviously, a lot of that is driven by, by wanting to succeed, might be financially, etc. In doing that. This was a bit of a different way because this was you burn yourself out and you try to create business. It was a great analogy that I had when I started business. And now you're working 80 hours a week just so you don't have to work 40 hours a week for somebody else. It couldn't be more true in business as when we do that. But that's what we love. If it's passion and we care and we want to do that, it's still great. But we do sacrifice our own well-being to put others first, and that's it. So you have to have that balance. And it was
Yes.
a good reset for me to be able to say, yep, I did that, I achieved that, but there's got to be a way to make sure I'm looked after as well, and put some self-care in there as well.
Yes. And so, what were some of the self-care things that you implemented, and what were some of the changes on a personal level that aided and abetted this pivot to heart-led leadership?
Yeah, there was a couple of things. Obviously, I started with Michelle Stanton. She was my life coach or spiritual coach. She gave me a lot of great tools. But then investing in that, the gratitude sessions in the morning on the beach when I was doing the running, the gratitude at night, just doing that mindfulness practices for myself. And then, introducing those things in myself, doing some retreats, looking after myself from that point of view, but also embedding that into the culture of the business. And we started our well-being for our team as well, and bring well-being days into the team. So not only myself, if I was going to look after myself and be saying that this is really important to create my work-life balance, it's bringing that into the team as well. So we introduced well-being days into the team. We introduced those trainings and skills that I learned and brought them into my team as well. So it wasn't just about the self-preservation and looking after myself. I was important to give those skills and those knowledges to my team so that they could produce a better outcome as well, which was really great.
Yes, and that was actually going to be my next question. So, how how did you engage your team to embrace this new vision and this new way of leading and caring for clients? Because I can imagine there might have been a mixed bag of engagement with that side of things. So how did you transition them and transform your business to align with this new way of operating?
Yeah, so giving them some of the basic teachings of what I did, but then we introduced wellbeing as well. So we have 6 wellbeing days a year that we give our team as for mental health and wellbeing. 4 of them are team days where we basically have a full team of all of our businesses get together and we give them life skills, etc., to help them with mindfulness and yoga and other spiritual stuff, etc. Um, so obviously when you start that, the team has skepticism because they believe what are you doing this for? What's in it for you as me as the owner of the business? But really, it was actually saying this has changed my life and put myself on a better way. So I'm actually giving you those skills. And if we can, increase the well-being of our team and bring back that well-being into the team, it's going to give a better outcome to our clients. So, and as I said through that other thing, my team is my greatest asset. And you need to look after that asset. If they don't perform at their best or they've got the challenges, then they're not going to give that service back to my clients. So it's really doing that. So yes, there was skepticism from the team. And yes, there was even skepticism from my clients because they're saying, what are you shutting your business down 4 times a year for? But it's actually to improve the way that we can interact with them. We're a service business. So yeah, it was great, but it had its challenges internally and externally, but it's changed the business completely by focusing on that.
Yes, no doubt. And so with the resistance for people trying different well-being things that might be a bit spiritually inclined, or even some of the basics like the terms manifesting or meditating or breath work or mindfulness and things like that. How did you work through the resistance if you had any?
It's like with our team days, it's trying to take and ask the team just to be open.
Yeah.
Like everything, like some tools don't resonate with everybody, and that's okay. But just try it. And if it helps you, it helps. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But this is what's helped me, and this is what I've found. And be open to the fact that this can have benefits for you. It's obviously done very well, and you can see the success of myself and how I've transformed myself. So it's trying to let the team be open. And
Yeah.
that's the thing. And even though those team days are mandatory to come to, all the exercises are optional. But we
Yes.
just say to our team, just experience. If it works for you, great. If you can take something out of the day, that'll be amazing. But that's how I think you get through it. It doesn't have to be forced. It's just put in a way that it is a benefit. And, some of those team members have experienced stuff that they would never experience before, like sound healing and stuff like that, which really opened them up. And they can say, yeah, there are some benefits to those. So it's great to see the growth in the team as well, and them being willing and open to accepting some of these things. So it's been amazing.
Are you surprised by how easy that transformation was with the team, or was it more challenging than you thought it would be?
I think once they realised that the motive wasn't business related and business goals related, the actual motive was really a heart-led way of saying, I want to help you because this has helped me transform my life. And I'm giving those as a gift back to you to help you transform your life. And once they saw that, the engagement completely changed. And we missed one in the last 3 years, and they've missed it and they've been asking for it. So you can see now that it's created a different culture, and they're really open to that and they're really keen to be part of it. And it's created a completely different culture and a different way of interacting internally.
That answer is like a chef's kiss. It is seriously, I wish my hope and desire is that there are more leaders like yourself taking that approach because, of course, employees continue to feel and think about that there's an agenda. There's a lot of distrust, especially in the big, large corporates. They're the kinds of clients that I work with, and they've had well-being programs. They've done a bit of this art therapy. They've done some, breathing. They've done lots and lots of personality programs, lots of communication programs, and learning about different styles and that kind of thing. But to me, it's not deep enough, and all of it is you can feel that the staff feel, and I've been in those workplaces as well as an employee, but you can feel that there is an agenda for more productivity. Like
Correct.
the even though that is the outcome of doing this deeper work, of course, otherwise why would you pay
Yeah,
to have that for your staff? But the key positioning has to be because you truly fundamentally care about your employees.
100%.
And that's what you do. And that's when you were speaking at the networking event, that was coming across so clear. I was like, isn't this beautiful that I'm seeing, someone who runs 6 businesses and has such a significant impact in the community and in this state, in Australia and Australia wide, even, you know, isn't it amazing that this is what's in my reality, someone like you and the change makers that I interview and the other CEOs that I work with my work are on that, train as well. But we just need so much more of that. And intention is everything, integrity is everything. And when you build trust with your team like that, then of course it becomes easier for them to engage, to trust you, to let you lead the way through this transformation as well. Because it's not just here's some cool things we're going to try. It is you are asking them to trust you to follow this path, and um and that is the strength of like the masculine leaders that we need. Like that to me is what the masculine energy is. It is feeling so safe in that container to follow that leadership. And that's what you've done. I can feel the energy of it. I can feel the frequency of it. And you can tell in the way that you're explaining it that that's what's happening. And that's so exciting.
Yeah, and I genuinely love my team as my family, and I treat them as my family. So, you'd want that for your family, and for my team is my family, and I genuinely care for them. And you see that now that you have that genuine approach, and through this process, the team really cares about each other. So it takes it further from just the business. Internally, if people are going through some hard times or doing that, they have the awareness. So it's not about, oh, this person's not performing or etc. at work. What is it that they're going through in their personal life that's causing them to have this problem at work? You have a completely different approach because the first question is, are you okay? What's happening? So if you change that approach to saying it's not about productivity or etc., it's about giving tools, and then you can recognize those things. It creates an amazing culture, and that love and care for each one comes out through that in the team, and that's what I love about this. And you can use those tools and the different tools, the profiling and stuff like that you've said, but even like human designers who said, using that as a session and you can understand the difference in the people and use it as a fun exercise. So everyone's unique and everyone's different, and different profile tools like human design can then highlight those. And instead of using them as differences in the organization, you bring people together because then they can understand the other people. I love it. It's just amazing, and it's changed that way.
Yes, and I mean, everything has its place. So, of course, understanding your leadership style, understanding your human design, understanding how you can use creativity to move things, that's all well and good. But there are components, and this is what I love about the work that you're doing with your team. You're taking them through the deeper aspects to work through their personal trauma, their personal limitations, limiting beliefs, self-sabotage, doubts, and it's a personal care, and that is what I see missing in the large corporates. And I was thinking just before, there might be CEOs and leaders out there that are saying, it's all well and good if you've got a small business, but you've got six businesses that you're doing this with, not just one. So it
No.
is possible. It is very possible. And so have you found it to be easy to facilitate these days and to create this space?
It hasn't been too bad, because there's a commitment to it. You're committed to it, and you're saying there's no excuses around that. And I said, and you can say it's a smaller business. We've got 25 or 30 staff. It's still a lot to shut 5 or 6 businesses down for 4 days of the year to invest that time. It's still from a cost point of view and all of that, it's still a big thing and an impost into that. But it can be done. There's no excuses. And, for larger organizations, it starts with your leaders and your managers, etc. Because and for them to be, to empowered and have those learnings, you can start with your leadership team because they're the ones that will transmit that and that frequency and push that down the line. So yes, it may be harder in some larger businesses, but it's not an excuse to say you can't do that. And it can be broken down. And it's just the investment. If you really invested in that and that's your heart mission and that's how you want to have your business, then it's worth it.
Yes.
It pays it back in so many different ways. As a heart-led leader, the successes you get is seeing your team happy and seeing the interactions. It's not about a bottom line result. It's about genuinely changing the culture and having them along with that journey. That gives me the greatest satisfaction.
Yes, and that I again, that's why what you were saying resonated with me so much, and why I wanted to interview you. But the best part is that when you forego the personal agenda for productivity and the bottom line for genuine care, the irony is you do get greater productivity, engagement, and increase in culture. Like all of those things come anyway. So
Correct.
there's no real reason for you not to take those steps and to do that work. And so I wanted to ask you, and you touched on this before, about your clients' response to this transformation. And it was a mixed bag of reviews, wasn't it?
It was because they're saying in a world where you're trying to stay in the service industry and they're saying, if they can't get you for one day, etc., what are you doing for this? And, why would you do that? And again, if they don't understand at that level where you're trying to take your clients, etc., or the spirituality behind it, they're going to have that resistance and saying, well, you're inconveniencing me by shutting down the office for 4 days a year. What are you doing that? But if you understand the bigger picture where every interaction then becomes with our whole team, whoever you interact with our team is going to be elevated. So every experience you have for the other 350 days of the year is all going to be a greater experience. So,
Yeah.
that's hard to communicate, especially if you haven't got heart-led leaders that are clients and they're focused on their bottom lines. But I love to be a disruptor and love to change because by me showing that it has a better service, hopefully that ripple effect, as I said, with our culture, ripples down to my clients. And if they can then implement some of that into their businesses and that ripple effect happens, we can change. Everyone can change. And I think we've really lost that focus in business because it's all about bottom line. And if I'm trying to be a disruptor to try to lead by example.
Yes. And again, that's another chef's kiss. That is just Oh, it's just so comforting. I have to say, to have, uh, especially someone local in, South Australia here in Adelaide, to you are a rare diamond, and you probably already feel like that. So when you're looking at your network, your competitors, your industry, even, can you see that you are disrupted, that you are like they're not in that same
Oh,
mindset?
it's
And
not. Yeah, and as an accountant, like love, care, team, and respect are my four pillars to mine. If you listen to that, you're not going to have that in many accounting industries. Um, so I don't think those pillars are there. But for me, like family-run business is what I specialize in, and you need to have love and care in that. Yeah, that's what space I'm in. I need to have empathy and genuine care for the business because they're going through struggles as everybody else is. So you need to take out that, and that's why in our industry, I've never charged an hourly rate and doing that because it's about building client relationships, and you need to be there for our clients in the times, the hard times, not the good times.
yeah,
Um, so that isn't in our industry, but I'd love, and again, I'd love to change that because we need to say that, and there's hard times coming, obviously now, and things are struggling for small businesses and starting to feel that. This is where the industry really needs to step into that and saying this is where we really need to be there for our clients because they've supported us for a long time and now it's our time to give back. And when they're going through hard times, it's not about charging them more or doing more for them. It's about stepping back and now, being grateful for their loyalty and now helping them through their challenges that they're having. And I think that's what the industry needs, especially our industry.
yes, I think even just globally that needs to be the approach too. I think it's just so much more than just your industry. I feel like there is a lack of um it feels like the energy is stuck in this old way of operating. And a lot of businesses, small, medium, and large, are really feeling the challenge to crack open
Yeah.
and get into the heart space. Not only the leaders, the organization, and its employees, all of them need a heart opening,
Opening.
and anchoring, especially the anchoring part, and then some of that deeper work for their perspective to change in how they're operating, how they're engaging with their consumers and clients, all of the above. And it has a chain reaction, but it starts within.
Yeah.
And um, and I agree, there needs to be more considered thoughts on this side. I think a lot of leaders have business coaching and strategy sessions, and all of that has its place. Again, that's all very well and good and important, but there's this other component that is being ignored, and I see the opportunity there. And I love that my work is in that space because I've seen it, a
Yeah.
significant path carved out for me and my work. But it is it, I feel like sooner or later businesses are going to have to come to this crossroads and this point. Otherwise, the way we're moving in our world, the way employees are wanting to be held in those organizations, the way people want to be cared for, and our connection and our the importance of relationships, I think is going to force its hand. And
Yeah. And I think that's
some businesses may not succeed if they don't make those changes.
No, and we need to get back to that. I think people are coming back to that personal service with the way AI is changing and everything else, but opening that up. And, COVID was a little bit of way having flexibility. And, from my point of view, even with my team, there's sacrifices that we all make as small business owners. But I think it's really important in today's society, and we've got to be flexible as leaders and saying you need to be there for the significant things in your family's life because you're not going to get those things back. So it's really important in what you're saying before, and leaders need to open that up, saying my team need to be there. If there's a family event or something, they need to be there. Yes, you have the trust in the team that they're going to make that time up, but they need to be there because you can't replace those things. And those memories and those things and time in business, etc., and flexibility needs to be part of what leaders and employers need to do. Open that heart back up. And if you have that experience with your team, giving that kind of love back to them and saying it's a reciprocal thing. It's a two-way thing, right? It's not just a one way. I think that's where you're training your team to say it's both ways. I'm giving you this because I really care for you. You give it back. And that trust both ways. And that's what leaders don't have, but having that trust both ways that they're going to do the right thing back. I think that will change the dynamic, and it needs to have that way. We're in a changing
Yes.
time, and it's really tough. So I think that's where the leadership, leaders opening up to saying, yeah, we need to change the way we deal with people. We need to change the way we do it for our clients, and that will have a positive impact moving forward.
And
And with team.
do you feel like trust is the big issue big, within organizations, that's why it doesn't happen?
Yeah, I think it is. And I think that is the trust because, business coaches, like you said before, all these business coaches, etc., they're still based on an ROI
Yeah.
and a 10x and stuff like that. You've got to understand there's intangible things that are going to come from these kind of things that you can't measure.
Yeah.
But, and then, salaries are going to get to a point, you talk about that, people aren't going to just chase salaries anymore. You're getting to a point, people are going to chase different things in businesses. And even like us, giving back to 40 odd organizations, people understand, well, why would you do that? I said, they were integral parts of everybody's life, especially in a regional community. They give so much back. So why don't you give to them?
Yeah.
These are the things people, and if people understand that in a culture that this is why we're doing it because they're an important part of our community. And this is what people are looking at, what employees are looking for. It's not just about the dollars. I can have time with my family. I can give back to community. I can have a purpose in my job that's just not about the profit or the bottom line of the business I work in. There's a greater thing, that opens it up to so much different things. And you attract a different kind of employee and a more loyal employee, and that trust will be built from there. So that's how I see it. And it will change the landscape in how that's being done.
Yeah, and that really, and this is another opportunity, right? Because a lot of organizations don't realize this is how you become an employer of choice. And this is how you stand out in the marketplace. This is the work. This is what is going to lead you to what you want within your organization. And it is, to me, it's a no-brainer. And I again, like, I feel grateful that I can see it and I can get out there and I can talk to all of these different CEOs. But there's just so much to this that there is so much benefit for everyone involved. And um my statement on my website, and part of my mission is this transformation for the highest good of all of my work with the CEOs and their organizations is so that everyone benefits. And
Correct.
it is what you're doing. And that's, again, why I wanted to interview you, because I can see how you're influencing and disrupting your industry. And that is why you're a change maker, a heart-led change maker. And hopefully this conversation inspires more CEOs and more organizations to start thinking about taking some steps like that, and just even exploring some of the concepts to do that. But I feel like uh, in organizations where you've got different levels of managers, trust has been broken in different ways. A lot of the managers are looking to protect themselves from their manager as well. Can you see that in your industry as well? Like a lot of it's like a chain reaction coming from the top.
Yeah, and that's is it. Like that's why a disruptive industry, because for our industry, still in 90, probably 95% of the firms, it's you have to be, you have to bill it every 6 minutes of your time. So obviously that trust is there because there's accountability at every step. When for my team, there's no charge out rate, it's a flat fee, and I encourage productivity and ways to do things better. So you're encouraging it to do there. So, our industry is really hard on that. And that's why you have the trust at other levels, because it's all based on outcomes.
Yep.
Whereas if you can drive change the other ways and drive efficiencies and lead from the bottom up in a way and saying, how can we do things better? And give them a voice and giving them and saying, you've got the tools, you're there. How do we drive that change from the bottom up rather than coming from the top down? And there's a lot of skills, different different generations now. There's a lot of skills in different areas. But if you understand the people at a higher level, and I use me for example, that trust. For me, even understanding with human design, I'm a projector.
Me
So
too.
I,
Me too.
which we do things three times as fast. And one of the great things over the last couple of years is understanding that because my team never achieve their targets that I set because I'm setting it at my level. But now I've changed that around because I understand the different personalities. So now the targets are more realistic and I don't have that frustration in levels. So this is where that trust can be built up because
Yeah.
sometimes the trust is built up just by expectations or the way things are set up, not by the actual reality. So understanding these things at a deeper level and opening yourself up,
Yeah.
you're going to build that trust back up. And if you have some intangible things rather than all ROI on what's on the bottom line and put some intangible things, the well-being of the team or a perma survey or something like that, that just says our team's happier, things are happier. It doesn't always have to be about the bottom line. So that will build trust.
Yeah.
And I think that will change things. And you have to be open to that.
Absolutely. And my favorite thing about this kind of transformation in workplaces is the fact that there is so much innovation that comes from the team as a result of this work. So it's not even just productivity and engagement increases. There is so much innovation and
Yeah.
inspired energy that comes from your team without you even trying. It is all there. So, when you've got people who are feeling aligned, valued, supported, cared for, genuinely cared for, understood, then and they know that they've got space to be a human in all of its aspects, because we've got lives outside of our work as well that influences. um so much innovation happens, and that to me is the most, that's like the cherry on the top for me. And I'm curious to know from your perspective, have you noticed that as well?
Yeah. I say for me, failure is the road to success.
Yeah.
So I encourage my team to fail in a way because I said, don't be scared to try it. Because the only way that we're going to improve as a business is to try something and it doesn't work, and then we're going to improve on that.
Yeah.
So if you have an open thing that failure isn't, it's not failure. If you change that word, and we had a big thing, it's courage to try. So we changed that word failure to courage.
Yeah.
So if you have the courage to try something, and if it doesn't work, it's okay. It's about continuous improvement. So that's, I think, which is really important in our business. And that gives that innovation from the bottom because you're saying, well, that trust is built because, okay, I've tried it, it didn't work. Okay, what can we do to improve it? It's either a skills gap, it's a client gap, or it's a personal gap or a systems gap. Like, what is it? So use it as a positive.
Yeah.
And if you have that mentality, then there's not the fear in the workforce on all those levels. So the fear is taken out because you're encouraged to try it. And you're encouraged, if it doesn't work, you're not scolded for trying something. You're actually rewarded for that because you're saying, oh, great. So now we can improve our business. Change that the way it is. Change the can't to how. And, it'll change trust through all levels. And I think that's really important. And that's the way to grow.
Absolutely. And I love all of that. And I especially love the fact that it creates an empowered workplace as well, because everyone knows that they can change their circumstances at any time. So if something's not working or they see a gap, and if you've got projectors in your workplace, so if you know the human design of your people, which is so important,
Yeah.
if you've got the projectors, they can see where the gaps are. So let them lean into the innovation to resolve it. And you can get, the many gens who can,
Yeah.
do multi things and fast and have the energy for it and the capacity to do the execution. And when you understand how to pull the different levers properly, utilizing everyone's strengths and empowering them in that way, it is, I mean, again, that is such great transformation for your organization. And as a result, your organization obviously benefits. That's a no-brainer. But your mission and your purpose strengthens, and your and this is another one of my favorite things about this work is I understand that heart-led leaders like yourself want to leave a legacy. Like, the
Yeah.
legacy part is so important, and you can't leave a legacy when you're not leaning into these aspects. Like, how is that
No,
even possible?
no, you can't. And now I'm dealing with the third generation of a lot of clients, after being in business for 30 odd years doing this, which is great, and changing lives. And the greatest satisfaction I get in business is not my bottom line; it's saying that I've changed somebody's life.
Yeah.
And to hear those words from my clients, and it gives me goosebumps now hearing that. That's what a heart-led leader is, because that's what the purpose is. And it doesn't matter whether you're in accounting or whatever industry you are, you can say that's really the purpose. And understanding, for me, that gives me fulfillment,
Yeah.
and that gives me joy, which then now say I've got my why. That's really lights me up, and that keeps me going, and that's what I know, that's the purpose now.
Yeah. And you've seen all of the areas of your life come into alignment because of this as well, haven't you? So
Yeah,
personally,
personally.
you attracted and manifested a beautiful partner, and your family dynamic has changed as well, hasn't it?
Oh, yes, yeah, it is manifested the perfect partner, and doing that, and the business as well, and the work-life balance. So, those tools, and people say those words. It's hard to people understand that, but that has done that. And,
Yeah.
it's an amazing. My fiance is a beautiful fiance that she's added a life, but supporting this, which is really great. So you don't only get this at work, but if you get someone that supports your vision
Yeah.
and understands that, and encourages you to continue on that path, it's just going to take everyone with you.
Yeah.
And having that at home to go back and having that debrief, and then working together on those goals improves your personal life, but it also encourages you and strengthens what you can do with your team. And that's been a massive change as well, which I haven't had before.
Yeah. So, what would you say to other CEOs who might be in circumstances where their partner isn't very supportive? What would you recommend to them? Would you recommend they work with a coach on the life side of things, the personal side of things?
It
Or,
is, because I think that is, because there's two things, obviously, with work, etc. And you don't want to mix that line between that, but you need to support that growth. So if they have an understanding of what their relationship is, they work on themselves and they love themselves enough, and are focused on their own growth in doing that, that partner will generally come along to that. And it doesn't have to be that they're involved in the work.
yeah,
They'll be dragged along, and they'll lift them up to that level. And that's what part of this work is. And if you genuinely do that, that love for that person and that relationship will improve, because you have greater clarity around all those things and being grateful for all those things that person does. Not every partner wants to be involved with the business,
yeah.
but you'll have a greater appreciation for that person, and that will change the way that you're dealing with business as well.
Yes, because I feel like a lot of CEOs have been so focused on their business success that we were saying earlier, the personal life, the wheels have started to fall off, and things are not great in that space. That's what I've noticed. And
Yeah.
yeah, I was just curious from your perspective if you felt like
It can
that.
rekindle that. And
Yeah,
I think you
yeah,
do that when you have the self-love and understand your why.
yeah,
And then I think you'll see the other person for all their good qualities. It's hard when you're trying to have that conflict between being involved with business.
yeah,
And we say it, you're never going to have a work-life balance. I think we call it now our work-life tango is what we call it. I don't think you're going to have the best balance if you're passionate about what you do.
yeah,
Work and your businesses take up a lot of that time.
yeah,
You're never going to have a balance, to be honest, and that's not achievable. But treat it as a tango, and tango is fun. It's exciting,
yeah,
and sometimes you're going to be more involved. But if your partner understands that there's times that work comes first, or there's going to be some busy times, you just understand that, and that could be both ways. So it can change that dynamic, and understanding you don't have to have a balance. You just have to understand the dance. And sometimes it's fast, and sometimes it's slower, and you appreciate that.
yes. And so that, I mean, um the benefits of doing this kind of work and this kind of transformation and leading from the heart. I mean, the outcomes are endless, really. The positive outcomes are endless. And I love that you are affirming that all is not lost, that relationships can be reignited out of doing this work. And especially because you're inspired, you start to inspire those people around you as well, especially in your personal life. And
Yeah.
so you're right, it is a tango, and you could never ask any entrepreneur or CEO or leader to abandon the ship and pretend that that part is not important, because it is. It's a big part of it. And especially if you own the business as well, even more so. But I like that you are describing that that there is a way for there to be a union between work and personal,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that
And some of those, obviously working in business, you get some amazing benefits, and you from the sacrifices, you get some of the highlights as well. And
yeah,
I think that's where you can share those and making time out for the other person and really having that quality time and then enjoying that outside of that. And if it's only in busy times, if it's the smaller times and you
yeah,
haven't got as much time, be grateful for that and really focus on that, and that'll change. And
yeah,
when you have some more time, you can enjoy some things better. But understanding that, because that's really important. And if they know your purpose and your why, and you're really genuinely helping people, especially if you're heart-led leaders, that has a different thing, because it's not, you're saying you're not just at work for the sake of being at work. You're at work to change people's lives.
yes,
And if you change that in a different way, then that person doesn't feel that it's all about work. You've actually got a purpose for being there. You're not being there because you just try, you actually genuinely there because there's a need to it, and then trying to find some balance.
do you feel like, I mean, our state of the world is an interesting one right now, because we've got a generation under us who want to be entrepreneurs. They want to work for themselves. Everyone wants to be an influencer, or run their own business and work from home and all of that. But we actually, from to live, we need people building roads. We need people plumbing and building houses and doing all of the hands-on things. We need bums on seats
Yes.
in these workplaces. Do you think that because there's a lack of heart-led leadership, care, and um, understanding about that balance, that that is why people are leaning more in? That's why we've lost that generation.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. This is an interesting dynamic because it said obviously from our even our ethnic backgrounds, etc. We were taught that hard work is the only way to succeed.
Yeah,
It's a different world. So that generation, that said there was no such thing as a free lunch. So my dad taught me that the only way to succeed is hard work. And if you look at where we are now going to, and it's a different world, it's a global world, it's a bigger market to attract. So there's got to be some balances between that, because in a way, love the way they have it, because they don't want to do the 80 hours like we do. They want to succeed and they want to do it an easier way. Now, there is no quick way to go there. So there is that challenge. Um, but I don't think they want to have the sacrifices that come with that. And there was a great quote where, people are jealous of your success, but they're not jealous of how you got there.
yeah,
And I think this generation wants that easy road to get there. And with entrepreneurship and heart, with leadership, it's not simple, and it's going to take time and it's going to take sacrifices. So yes, we need to encourage them to do that. And yes, they're going to do it a different way to us. So we have to be understanding of that. But I think there can still be a balance. It doesn't have to be too far back in the way that we did it. There can be a balance, but I think, yeah, it's hard, and it's hard for us to grapple with the way that they want to go from here to there straight
yeah,
away,
yeah,
without having to take the steps and have those things along. And I don't think they're hardened enough. Like we said before, failure is the road to success. I don't think they're hardened to having the fails, because if they do not succeed straight away, then they really struggle with that. And I think we need to probably encourage them to keep trying and to keep moving forward. And sometimes you don't get from here to there. You might get one step up, and be happy with that and celebrate that. So yeah, that's how I see it. It's a little bit of a challenge.
yes, it definitely is. I agree completely. And the this is one of the things we spoke about when I saw you at the networking event, and I asked you, do you feel like having uh, a European background, that it's easier to be in that heart-led space because it's part of our value system and our culture?
Well, I think it is. I said, having a think about it. Like my dad, I still say he's my hero. Like if you look at his work ethic, he worked extremely hard. But if you go back to that era, in saying that he still had love jobs. So even though, everyone says now time is money, but no, you can give your time up to help somebody else that's less fortunate yourself. So that background and saying, yes, there is we still need to go back to that and saying, yeah, we want to help out. That's the same with us helping community. There is still opportunity to not time. Sometimes time isn't money. Sometimes people haven't got that, but giving yourself to someone that's less fortunate, your time to someone to help them grow in whatever way that is, we need to have a little bit of that back because
Yeah.
we've lost that. And that was really big in our community, family and community, etc. And I think that's what's lost, especially in larger businesses, that opportunity to give back and help out a little bit. It's not all about doing everything for a dollar or making anything out of it. It's helping someone. And if you help this person, they'll be able to help that person, and that will have that ripple effect. And if we get back to that, it just creates a whole different thing. You bring trust back, you bring community back, you bring all of those things back, you bring love. And that's what we love as an ethnic background, around a table of food and all those kind of things. But that's what it would be great to bring back into organizations, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Can I ask you a question? Given that you're a projector, same as me, um, have you found, given the influence of your your parents' generation and societal wise as well, that the deconditioning part of being a projector, like when you were learning about being a projector, we've got a different operating system from everyone else. We're 22% of the population, which is so mind-blowing to me. Um, that because we run so differently, have you found as a leader that you've had to sort of um look at and decondition your operating the way that you are operating your day to day?
Yeah, I think it is. And as projectors, if we burn out, and me doing 80-hour days probably wasn't the ideal thing for 15 or 20 years. So, and that's been the success of the other businesses that I've set up. So yeah, that deconditioning and says that you don't have to, with the other business that I've created, you don't have to do that 100 hours a week to make them successful. So using that knowledge around being a projector now and saying there's different ways. So yes, you can put other people in that business to accelerate that. It doesn't all have to be done with the hard work. The success of those businesses has shown that change.
Yeah.
So the accounting business has been built on the back of the old traditional way of work 100 hours a week, slog away and do that, where the new businesses, which have been amazingly successful, has been more on the line of the projector. Here's the vision, here's the way, and get people to run that business, and they've flourished.
Yeah.
So yes, um, it's hard to decondition yourself, but you can. And
Yeah.
that's really around that knowledge. And that's what I love. The more you learn about these different ways and different modalities, you learn more about yourself. And again, focusing, empowering the strengths rather than focusing on your weaknesses, it's been amazing. And that's been transformative for me. And it's been great.
Have you noticed that finding out that you're a projector, it sort of encouraged you to lean into the parts that make you what I classify as alien-like and a bit of a weirdo?
Well, as you know, we felt in a way displaced in a way because we were
Yeah.
successful in all those kind of things, but didn't feel in a way that we belonged, even though we're very successful in what we're doing. So
Yeah.
embracing that now, you can live free and understand who you are, and that's okay. And I think that's the fulfillment now. You get a lot of fulfillment understanding where you are, and you hone into that strength. And you're not an outcast. You're actually one of the 22%, and focusing on those strengths. And even, one of the great things out of my human design profile was about you've got a gift
Yeah.
and you need to be invited to give that gift.
Yeah.
So for me, one of all the challenges that if you look back that I've faced is I've just given that gift away without anyone asking for it. And that's what's caused the trouble. But when I've been invited to share my gift, like this podcast today, um, you can make a difference
Yeah.
and just understand those differences. So when you feel sometimes that you're just trying to give this away when people aren't asking for it, no, stop and saying just wait and wait for the right time for them to invite you in, and then you can change because
Yeah.
they may not be ready for it. And I think this is with business and everything else. So it's been amazing to
Yes,
use
I
that.
found that as well. And because we do see things that other people don't see. If there's no invitation for opinion, um,
Yeah. We
especially with
like to give it.
yeah, I do, especially with my family. But I've
Yes.
learned, I've realized that a lot of the angst that has occurred is because they didn't want to hear. And
No.
even though
Or they
that's
weren't ready for it.
yeah, they weren't ready. And so now I'll ask them, would you like my opinion? And sometimes they say yes. And my mum, she loves to say no. No, I already know what you're going to say. But so it stops any frustration, resentment, rejection, all of those
Yeah.
things. It kind of just stops that and it dismantles it. And it's the right people, the deepest connections happen because when someone asks you for your advice, obviously when they're engaging you for your work, that's a beautiful way for someone to invite you in for your expertise. All of that, you can lean right into. And yeah, and then this podcast, obviously, I asked you to be on the show. So it's been excellent that you're just leaning into just sharing what's on your heart and being so open, which is so good.
Yeah. And it helps some other people that said, we want to be disruptors and we want to help other
Yeah.
people change and have the courage to take that step forward to say, yeah, this is big, but I said we need to do it. And I think people are more open to it.
Yeah.
But we want to both get CEOs and leaders to open their hearts and actually change the way the workplaces are and the way that we treat our team because that's what we need. And I think society needs as a whole to bring the love back is really important.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a difference between um, being a good human and being heart-led. That
Mm.
that is I think something that has really stood out to me over the last few weeks when I've been at different networking events, hearing different speakers. You can be a good human and do lots of proactive things, in the community and talk to different issues, and even be in work like social justice, for example. But that doesn't necessarily mean you're a heart-led leader.
Mm.
And again, like I feel like people need to spend a bit more time deep diving into what that really means. And as a society, I feel like that really talks to people just deepening overall. And I love that as projectors, as disruptors, we get to keep encouraging people to do that. And we're doing that by leading by example, which is excellent.
Yeah. And
Now,
you don't have fear as well of the retribution back because
yeah,
we genuinely care. And if people
yeah,
want to come along, that's great because that's what we're here to do. And if people don't have that same
yeah,
thing and have the feedback, we're okay with it because
yeah,
we understand that it all comes out of a point of love and we're willing to accept that. And we're just trying to change and just trying to move people forward. And that's okay. I have no
absolutely.
problems at all and no fear of saying, that I have when clients come in that love is a core value. It's in our brochures, it's on our website, etc. I have no problems with that. And it doesn't scare me anymore because that's my why.
Yeah. Changing gears completely now. Now I want to talk to you about property, right? So we
Yeah.
I feel like we've had such a beautiful conversation around heart-led leadership, but now I want to talk about property being used in a heart-led way. And so maybe let's start with people have lots of different thought patterns that prevent wealth building. A lot of different thought patterns. Some are very open, when it comes to prosperity and wealth. It's, they know that they deserve it. They know that they receive it. So they're just in all of this beautiful abundance. Then you've got those who are more challenged in that aspect. And also, the way property is being used with the corporates who are not heart led. I'm just interested in your perspective. Have you spent, again, because you're a projector, you're seeing a lot of different things. What are you noticing about that in the world that we live in and where we're sort of headed?
Yeah. Yeah. From my point of view, it's about creating financial freedom, and that's what property is. So I think if you're led from that, that's the driver. So, from my point of view, property is a great leverage to create some financial freedom, even before super, etc. So if you look at it from an asset class and what you're trying to do, that's what it is. But obviously, people, developers and salespeople, etc., their motivation is around getting the upfront commissions and making as much money upfront. So I think that's where the conundrum sometimes can be, where people are trying to be led in, and some people that may genuinely not be ready, or trying to do on the vulnerable, where you're trying to say targeting those people to try to get into property or doing that. So as an investment, it's amazing, and I believe in that. And we've got a property group and we've got a development company. But I think it's just that sometimes people are trying to prey on those people that may not be ready or can afford it to do it, and puts them in a more struggling financial position. And that's where, if heart leaders, you're saying generally it's the people that can afford it, genuinely want to do that, and then genuinely get them to a position in the best place for the best outcome, etc. But yeah, our clients now have made hundreds of thousands of dollars and changed their lives. I had breakfast with a client this morning that I took to football one night and then talked about the property, and they've made $500,000 out of it because I just genuinely talked about it in the benefits that it was going to have for his life. And he was able to retire 5 years earlier, do all those kind of fun stuff. So it's amazing if you're doing it from a purpose to genuinely care about those people and their well-being and their financial freedom.
Yeah. And when you're looking at organizations, larger organizations that hold property, big property, multi-level properties across the globe, how do you see those properties being used? Like when you look at the energy in those, in those properties, what are your thoughts about that? I'm really just curious to know if you've
Yeah,
spent
it's a
time thinking
purpose.
about it.
It's a different, obviously, there's different purposes for those buildings, etc., in doing that. So obviously the changing dynamic in the way that we live now, as I said, going back to our ethnic background, big houses, big open spaces, etc. It's not the environment that it's done. So obviously it's meeting a need, but the energy around that can be different because it's whether that's used for social purpose and having that sprinkling of having the ability to put some social purpose behind that and getting people into those high-rise apartments, or if it's just for the big conglomerates where you're just basically saying, it's all about a money-making thing. Or, even in Melbourne, there's a lot of problem around vacant buildings, etc., where you've got a housing crisis at the moment and a lot of vacant spaces in there that aren't being used because of foreign investment. So they have a completely different energy
Yeah.
around them. But I think we've now got conversations around some buildings with, a salt and pepper arrangement where you've got some social housing included in those bigger buildings and some purpose around them. And I think if we can, integrate those two things together, that can change the whole energy and dynamics around those bigger buildings and the purpose around them.
Yes, and I feel like that as well, and that's why I was just curious to see if you've felt a vision for that change in the um yeah the way we can transform the energy of what has occurred, because a lot of those buildings were created from greed, right? We know that.
Correct.
And
Yes.
so it is, okay, well, how do we release the karmic activity in those workplaces, in those organizations, in the actual building itself? What can we do to transform it? And I love
Yeah,
that
and
perspective.
social purpose and stuff like that. And that's what we were looking at, commercial aspects for domestic violence, accommodation and things like that,
Yeah.
which we're very passionate about and still want to move forward. But getting the commercial space to embrace that kind of accommodation and stuff like that, I think that can change the energy and the purpose of those buildings to be really genuinely cared about that.
Yeah.
And some of the people that are more fortunate than us that have investments in those buildings to use them for social purpose rather than just the traditional investment, that can change our energy a lot. And that's what I think would be amazing to see.
Yes, me too. Me as well. That is so good. How would you recommend a entrepreneur, a solopreneur, if you will, how would you recommend them step more into the expansiveness of wealth building?
It's being open to that, I think. We have a lot of fear around it, but that's where it's getting good advice. So, even with new properties and stuff like that, and what we do, the tax effectiveness of those things, understanding the full area, but really then saying from the point of view, and this is where the difference with heartfelt advice rather than open advice is saying every bit, what can you afford and where you want to be? If we can put you in a better position, that's great. But don't try to get them to, as I said before, this level to that level if they can't afford it. get increments. And there's different places you might have to go further out in capital cities and stuff that, but start with a thing that they can afford, get the confidence in that, and then build from there. I think that's the really important part because it does. And there's no, if you understand, and it's probably hard, like regional clients for us, if you're trying to get them to invest in a property that's worth more than their house is that they're living in, it's very difficult. But if you understand that that's a reason to create financial freedom, then they have a different kind of thought pattern. So really around education, really understanding what they need and really trying to put them and saying, this is the reason why. It's not going to affect your life now, but this is going to create a better life for you down the track. And then, educating them, holding their hand through the process is really important and not putting them in a position that they're going to be struggling more to achieve that financial freedom. They're going to feel restricted.
Yeah.
If you don't have that, that restriction to create their financial freedom, they're going to be open to it a lot better.
Yeah, absolutely. And that, I mean, I think that raises a really good point because it's about what you're willing to allow. And when you do the reframe, a mind reframe around wealth, lots of doors and lots of different opportunities open beyond what you can see. And working with someone like yourself, especially because you're a projector as well, you're seeing opportunities that other people can't see. That
Yeah.
is such a beautiful gift.
Yeah.
Like,
And that's the greatest thing, see our
yeah,
clients. And it's never too late to start. I had some
yeah,
self-employed clients that saying, at 50, they had hardly anything. And then they're saying, we're going to get you to $1 million at 60. And just had that last year when they said, oh, we got $1.2 million. We never thought that was possible.
yeah,
It's great. So yeah, have them to believe this is our dream, hold their hand and do incremental steps. Something is better than nothing
yeah,
and start them on a pathway. And really focus on the why you're doing this
yeah.
and don't try to make it restrictive for them in the process because they won't enjoy that. They won't feel that abundance.
No, and they'll just feel like they're trapped in another prison, which
Correct.
is the opposite of what you're
Of what you're
trying to
trying to
create.
achieve.
Yeah. And,
Yeah.
and then you've got the banks as well, who are especially hard on, entrepreneurs as well. It's so much harder to, get loans and all of those things. Do you foresee that changing?
And not in the interim.
Yeah.
That's not, it's difficult. And that's
Yeah.
the challenge. Small business is really struggling in that space, etc. Um, and the banks have no empathy or care for
Yeah.
that. And we're finding that space really hard at the moment. And that's going to be a big challenge for small business and solopreneurs because they can't have the ability to grow
Yeah.
because the banks aren't supporting them. And that was that conversation before. Like businesses like ourselves, we need to be there in the tough times. Banks aren't and institutions aren't there for them in the tough times. And even the ATO, the current approach is in
Yeah.
the same way. They're not being empathetic to small business. They're actually trying to force those things. So banks and those regulators are making life challenging.
Yes. All of that, all of what we have from a government perspective, all of that, this might ban me on some of the applications, but all of that needs to go into the bin, and we need to start again. That's what it feels like for me, because
Yeah.
none of it is for the greater good. All of that feels like it is for people who are on those boards. It feels very much it's driven by greed. It doesn't feel very fair for families. It doesn't feel supportive for small business, for entrepreneurs like us who are trying to, change the world and have a global impact. There's no real support there. And yeah,
And small business want to do the right thing and they
yeah,
want to do
yeah,
everything, but it's
yeah,
tough. It's
yeah,
tough. And you have to have empathy that, they want to meet all the obligations, want to try to do this and grow.
yeah,
But it's a really challenging environment for small business to do that. And it's a really hard space.
it
And that's what I
is.
said. So if you can't achieve the big stuff, then you just need to start and do something that can
Yeah,
change and improve yourself forward. And that's where I really think that's where heart led comes and saying, yep, you may not be able to get here straight away. Let's just start you on something. So at least we
yes,
get you to a better place than where you are now.
absolutely. My final question to you, Stephen, is what do you enjoy most about being a heart-led change maker?
Um, to see the outcomes, as I said before, and thing to hear those things from my clients, how it's changed their lives, but also to see the joy and the happiness in my team and seeing that they love coming to work and they enjoy being here in doing that. And the impact you make on the community, because that's really important. So the support of our organisations and charities, etc., that's what really gets me, excites me, etc. And obviously, and changing my clients' lives and giving them a financial freedom, etc., that they would otherwise not have. That's what really lights me up as a heartfelt leader, and that's what that's what inspires me every day to come to work.
I love that so much. Stephen, how can the audience listening best connect with you?
Yeah, there's a few ways. Obviously, our website, we've got the contact details in there. We've got a few offices, my LinkedIn page, and Instagram and Facebook page. So just contact our team and make a time. And I said, we're here to support businesses, etc. And I said, and like you, it's just giving back. And sometimes it's not a cost to give a call, but even just an opinion or just a phone call, just to have someone to listen and to give them the courage to make that first step. I'd love to be able to do that for your listeners.
Yeah, I love that so much. And if anyone is listening, well, for the not if anyone is listening, of course people are going to listen. The people who are listening, I proactively encourage that they work with someone operating with this mindset, with this intention, and not someone who is just looking out for their commission, like you were describing, not someone who is driven just to get the deal done. You want someone that is genuinely caring for your well-being, for the outcome, for the highest good of all. And that's what you're doing. To say I've loved this conversation is an understatement, and what you have shared is going to stay with me for a while. I feel like there's so much ruminating out, out from this. Thank you for joining me today, for giving me your time, for sharing your perspective on heart-led leadership, and yeah, it's just been an absolute joy.
It's a pleasure. And if we can, together, if we can help a few other businesses to start this process, that's what it's all about. And we'd love to bring that into as many businesses as we can
Yeah.
and make a difference.
Thank you so much, Stephen. I'll speak to you soon.
Appreciate it. Thank you.